Tonight on 24, the US and Israel are saying the Islamic Republic is being crushed.
We will not rest until the enemy is completely and decisively defeated.
Pickett urges continuing the war until the Islamic Republic's decisive defeat, noting IRGC missile launches have dropped 90% and the Iranian government is desperate. A wave of severe air attacks in major Iranian cities, air bases, and military docks are still under heavy blows from Israel and the US. Israeli Foreign Minister emphasizes the necessity for Western countries to cut ties with the Islamic Republic. Germany says it hopes Israel and the US have a clear plan to end the war. From Iran International Studio, this is 24 with Fardad Farahzad. Hello and good evening to Iran International viewers in Iran and around the world. Right at the start of the program, let's go to the White House. We have live footage. It's Caroline Leavitt's press conference, and she's talking about Iran.
Sure. I know it's something that the Treasury Department...
There's something the Treasury Department and they are talking about, and they need to speak with the president about it, and he will announce these sanctions or their removal today. Alex, please go ahead with your presentation. And we also had a report that a number of... Can you confirm U.S. troops were injured? Yes, I can't confirm exactly. I can say it's in the same range, but I'll defer to the Pentagon. Announce the exact number of injured people. And secondly, I wanted to ask you...
There was a briefing on Capitol Hill today.
There was talk on Capitol Hill, and senators said, well, they talked about the issue of deploying military forces to Iran. And is there an update from Mr. Trump?
دموکرات‌ها در کپیتول هیل اونها از 3 سال پیش به این طرف هیچ دموکراتی علیه قطعنامه محکوم کردن ایران به عنوان حامی تروریسم امضا.
And now that the commander-in-chief is decisively acting and has taken swift action to protect America, Democrats, instead of fully supporting the president who is actively eliminating this dangerous threat, now suddenly, instead of acting bipartisanly for national security, well, 53 of them ultimately condemned Iran as the world's primary state sponsor of terrorism, and, well, the rest resisted. Well, regarding the issue of troop deployment, the president has constantly talked about it, and, well, he hasn't ruled out any option as commander-in-chief, and nothing has been confirmed yet, but, well, the president is thinking about it. When considering the ongoing military component in this complex war, I find myself questioning whether the underlying political issues have actually been sufficiently addressed in this regard or not. It often seems that military action alone cannot resolve the root diplomatic problems. And then, well, there is the highly contentious issue regarding the Ayatollah. The central question remains whether he can realistically be the recognized leader there or not. Ultimately, does successfully ending this war, so to speak, fundamentally depend on the condition that a leader who is going to be there must first be formally approved by the president? As Mr. Trump completely explicitly stated, it is absolutely in the vital interests of the West and the United States that we do not have a dangerous terrorist and an extremist in charge in Iran. This is especially true given the recent issue and their violent reaction to this operation. Well, they deliberately sent their ballistic missiles towards our strategic partners in the region. We are dealing with hostile regimes that constantly chant death to America and have practically taken the whole world hostage through their actions, and while they also want to forcefully stop the free flow of critical energy supplies in the Strait of Hormuz. And the president states very clear opinions. Well, when we have a set of goals, and these goals must be achieved from the commander-in-chief's perspective, and they must be done, and it will continue for as long as necessary. And my actual question, of course, wasn't that. Are specific political goals also necessary here for the president to make a final decision? As I just told you, the specific goals of this military operation are completely clear. When these critical goals are fully achieved, and, well, Mr. President decides there that it's the official end of this operation. It only ends when he firmly decides that Iran is no longer a viable threat to the United States. Iran can talk, say whatever it wants to the international community, and all their promises and public statements can be entirely empty and hollow. We effectively eliminated their primary ballistic missile threat, and we can ultimately confirm that they can no longer be any active threat to our partners, allies, and forces stationed across the region. And that's what the president is also looking to do as a result of this operation. In Baltimore, outside a synagogue, a shooting has occurred. I don't know. I don't have information, Jennifer, but when it's confirmed, I will definitely let you know. Yesterday, Mr. President stated for the very first time that he genuinely believes in this new perspective on the matter. Honestly, one has to wonder, where exactly does he get that unusual information from regarding this specific issue? It is absolutely the first time the president is saying that. Because he felt that Iran wanted to attack the United States and our assets in the region, and he decided to start the operation. But this was a feeling that Mr. Trump had, based on facts, and also negotiators who were in talks with the Iranian regime, and the Iranian regime was lying. They were deceiving the United States, and were clearly looking to continue their nuclear program to build a bomb that is a threat to the United States of America. Furthermore, their ballistic missile arsenal was rapidly increasing, and they were dangerously getting to a point where they were creating absolute immunity for themselves. Consequently, the future president, or this current president, would reach a critical point where they could no longer safely conduct necessary operations. And again, as I have constantly repeated, he simply won't sit back and allow the hostile Iranian regime to strike or attack the United States.
US leaders or Israeli leaders who are making those same claims. So is he making this up to justify?
Is he intentionally saying these specific things simply to justify the difficult decisions that have already been made? Look, every single day, important decisions are made based on objective information and facts. The specific information that he and his negotiators rely on comes directly from the conversations and negotiations they had with the Iranian regime last year. Operating entirely in good faith, the president decided and worked diligently to reach a fair deal, a lasting agreement. But Iran ultimately showed they were actively looking to attack the United States, and the president simply cannot sit back and watch that happen to Americans. He will not wait. He will not wait for this to happen.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions for you. One has to do with follow-up to your statement that you made at the beginning of the briefing regarding this.
The first question is about the Save America Act, which I wanted to ask you about, and I wanted to have a follow-up with you.
A filibuster broken, the rules for the filibuster broken. You said the votes aren't there, one, to nuke the filibuster, and the votes aren't there for a talking filibuster. He says that's the reality. What's your reaction to what Senator?
I firmly believe that what makes Mr. Trump deeply want to pass this specific piece of legislation is completely clear. He wants absolutely all options kept on the table, and he wants the Senate to act as quickly as possible, using every necessary legislative path and every single available tool to achieve this outcome.
Well, why not? These are
Well, those were parts of Carolyn Leavitt's remarks at the White House press briefing. As you saw, almost most of the reporters' questions these days are focused on the United States and Israel's war with the Islamic Republic. At the same time, the U.S. Secretary of War says the Islamic Republic is on the verge of collapse, and U.S. operations are ahead of schedule. Pitcast said that today the most severe attacks are being carried out on targets in the Islamic Republic, and at the same time, according to him, the Iranian government has had the lowest amount of missile and drone launches in response.
The mullahs have become increasingly desperate, and exactly like the cowardly terrorists they are, they're now firing deadly missiles from behind civilian shields in hospitals and schools. They're deliberately targeting innocent foreigners because they know their conventional armed forces are being systematically weakened and wiped out on the battlefield. Iran's neighbors, and in some notable cases, their former strategic allies in the Gulf, have completely abandoned the radical regime, and their terror proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, resistance are either physically shattered, entirely ineffective, or have completely been marginalized. Today, Iran stands utterly alone, and they are severely losing this broader conflict. Our military goals are very clear, and we're executing them with unprecedented precision. First, their missile launchers, their missiles, their vast missile arsenal, and their advanced missile manufacturing capability. Second, destroying their ability again. Our primary objectives are systematically destroying their entire air force, dismantling their navy, and third, permanently preventing Iran from ever acquiring destructive nuclear weapons. Therefore, it remains a completely focused strategic military operation executed with unprecedented and unwavering precision.
But at the same time, in line with developments in the region, Amir Saeed Iravani, the Islamic Republic's representative to the UN, said that the 4 people killed in Israeli attacks on Lebanon were diplomats. According to him, these individuals were killed early Sunday morning in a hotel in Beirut. Meanwhile, however, in Israel, media outlets identified the 4 killed individuals as Majid Hassani, head of the financial branch of the Lebanon section, Ali Biyazar, head of the intelligence unit of the Lebanon section, Ahmed Rassouli, head of the intelligence unit of the Palestine section, and Hossein Ahmedlou, the Israel file manager in the Lebanon section of the IRGC's Quds Force. Marzieh Hosseini, reporting from the U.S. Congress, and Reza Mohades, joining us from Jerusalem, are with us today. Marzieh, I'll start with you. It seems that despite all the mounting political pressure in Congress, and the fact that this remains one of the most unpopular wars in modern American history, the administration still firmly believes victory is near, and they want to aggressively attack even more targets.
We heard that tomorrow at the upcoming White House press conference, there was also talk about a crucial meeting that took place this morning here in Congress and the strong remarks Senator Blumenthal made. I was there as well, and he explicitly told reporters that this is a dangerous prelude to sending American ground troops into Iran, and we will absolutely not approve it. Since early this morning, Democratic senators in the U.S. Congress have started saying that they will literally shut down the Senate floor if necessary to stop it. Legally, it seems they also have the authority, and they referenced it and said if Mr. Hext himself and Mr. Marco Rubio himself don't come in person and explain it to us here in an open session for the American people to see, we will disrupt the Senate's proceedings, and this will be a very big challenge. We know that Mr. Trump's work is stuck with the U.S. Congress because of the high cost of this war. It's said that even now, this war has cost at least $20 billion. According to reports, at least 50,000 U.S. military personnel, 200 fighter jets, and we know that so far 2 U.S. aircraft carriers are involved in this war. And now the Trump administration needs more military funding. Mr. Trump is supposed to get $50 million in military funding approved by Congress, but it doesn't seem, given what I heard from Mr. Blumenthal today, that the Democrats are going to approve this budget. Although there's another nuance too, in that Senator Lindsey Graham is someone who himself chairs the U.S. Congress's Budget Committee, and there will probably be some facilitations in that area, but it won't be without challenges. But generally, alongside this press conference here in Congress and what our viewers heard from the White House, 3 other press conferences were also held today. One was jointly between General Demkin and Mr. Pete Hext, and there were remarks made by Witkoff. Witkoff said in his interview that we have completely destroyed the Islamic Republic's enrichment capability, and the second point he mentioned was that the Russians promised and assured us that they haven't provided any information to the Islamic Republic. Another point raised by General Demkin was that specifically we have sunk 50 Islamic Republic vessels so far. We saw Ms. Lewins also repeat these statements just now at the White House, and Mr. Kane said that specifically 83% of the Islamic Republic's drone capability and 90% of its missile capability have been destroyed over the past 11 days. And the remarks made by Pete Hegseth were similar to what Mr. Netanyahu said. Mr. Netanyahu said, "We won't end this war until we crush the Islamic Republic to its owns." And we heard similar remarks from Mr. Pete Hegseth. Let's hear his voice.
President Trump firmly stated yesterday that we are absolutely crushing the enemy with this unprecedented display of technical and tactical superiority. He promised we will not rest until the hostile forces are completely and decisively defeated. However, we are executing this campaign entirely on our own timeline and by our own choice. For instance, today will once again be the most significant and intense day of our military. We will bomb more than ever, more than any other day, on the one hand. And on the other hand, in the last 24 hours, we've seen that Iran has fired the fewest missiles so far.
Besides his earlier points, Mr. Hegseth mentioned that Tuesday's attacks will be the most intense strikes inside Iran. So far on Tuesday, the attacked cities include Tehran, Bandar Abbas, Bandar Lenge, Kerman, Behaban, Tabriz, Donab, Chabahar, Isfahan, and Bushehr. According to Mr. Pax, the intensity of these attacks is expected to increase significantly in the coming hours. At the same time, the intensity of the ongoing attacks conducted by the Islamic Republic has also continued throughout the region. We currently know that incoming missiles and drones have been actively intercepted by both Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates up until these past few hours, according to the latest security reports. Furthermore, the last point I want to mention is that just an hour ago, breaking news emerged stating that the first successful escort of commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz has taken place. We know that actually, over the past few days, it's been discussed that Britain, France, and even Pakistan, which was actually an ally of the Islamic Republic, have joined America's campaign in the past hours, so they can escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz to control oil prices. This is alongside the $20 billion dedicated budget that Mr. Trump has allocated for ensuring ships and maintaining oil prices.
Reza, at the beginning of the program, we said Americans are saying that the number of missiles the Islamic Republic is launching has decreased by up to 90%. Israelis are saying similar things too, but at the same time, we're hearing from the Israeli army that now half of the missiles being fired at Israel have cluster or submunition warheads, which makes intercepting them more complicated.
Exactly. Half of those incoming missiles that the Israeli army has officially reported the Islamic Republic is currently firing towards Israel are equipped with dangerous cluster warheads. Military officials have stated that while their active interception is happening, the unique nature of these munitions is causing severe operational problems. Israel's advanced defense shield simply isn't completely impenetrable. It is not like it can successfully intercept and take down absolutely all of them before they impact. But on the other hand, I can personally confirm Mr. Hegseth's and General Dan Kine's earlier statements right here on the ground, and the reality is actually clearly visible to the naked eye too. Fardad, the information that various media outlets are publishing here indicates a significant decrease in the missiles that the Islamic Republic is actually firing towards here, as well as the drones it's launching both here and towards the Persian Gulf countries. I was looking at the Jerusalem Post, and it said that since last Saturday, when this war began, up until today, we've seen a 92% Recent military assessments reveal a massive reduction in attacks originating from Iran towards Israel or towards the Persian Gulf countries, highlighted by a remarkable 92% decrease in hostile drone launches. An Israeli Air Force general provided further context during an interview today with the Walla News website. He confirmed that operations successfully targeted many of the Islamic Republic's missile launchers, destroying something close to 80% of them. General Denkin also mentioned that while their main tactical focus has been on these launchers, the Israeli army general noted that targets are now explicitly shifting toward Iranian security forces. The latest updates highlight the besieged forces, whose detailed report the Israeli army published an hour ago. It states that many besieged bases, this time situated in Elam province, have been aggressively struck. Additionally, what the Israeli army formally considers internal security forces within Elam province have also been targeted. Besides that tactical objective, he emphasized what is truly ideal for Israel is for the destruction of these hostile launchers to actually reach 95%, so that daily life here in Israel can swiftly return to a very normal state. The situation would become much like the example he gave, noting that Yemen's Houthis used to fire their missiles this way every few days. But what you can clearly see here, Fardad, is that throughout the day, the warning alarm has sounded 5 separate times across different parts of Israel, including Jerusalem, where I am currently reporting from after 48 hours. Here, the alarm went off twice today, and each time the missiles approach, it's typically just 1 or 2 projectiles that are immediately intercepted by defense systems, and fortunately, nothing destructive has happened. Maybe another key point I want to mention. It was the first diplomatic trip a senior international official had here recently. The German foreign minister had come, traveled around, and went to Beit Shemesh with Gideon Saar. This is where last week, one of the Islamic Republic's missiles tragically hit, causing several deaths. And it is quite interesting to know that just hours after this diplomatic meeting, and mere minutes after Gideon Saar and the German foreign minister's joint press conference ended, another of the Islamic Republic's Republic's missiles again hit an open area near this same location. Overall, I can say that we can clearly feel a trend of missile reduction here, alongside the steady continuation of the battle that Israel has with Hezbollah. As you correctly pointed out, the Islamic Republic has now officially confirmed the deaths of those individuals who were killed in Beirut at the Ramada Plaza Hotel, on the 4th floor, inside a private suite. They initially claimed that these men were diplomats. However, both the Israeli army and Iran International had announced 2 days ago that 4 members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' elite Quds force were staying in that hotel and in that exact room when they were killed.
Thank you to both of you, Reza Mohaddis in Jerusalem and Marzi Hosseini at the U.S. Congress. In today's Pentagon meeting, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the U.S. Armed Forces also said that the United States has so far attacked 5,000 targets in Iran. According to Dan Kane, the military capability of the Islamic Republic is declining, and the launch of ballistic missiles by this country has decreased by 90% and drone launches by 83%.
You can clearly see CENTCOM's substantial progress on the strategic southern flank. So far, in this ongoing campaign, our forces have successfully hit over 5,000 critical targets. Our heavy bombers recently dropped dozens of precision-guided 2,000-pound GPS bombs to neutralize fortified positions. Furthermore, we are aggressively hitting their advanced drone manufacturing factories to completely destroy their long-range drone manufacturing capability. Additionally, our steadfast regional partners stationed along the southern flank of the broader southern front continue to successfully intercept incoming Iranian projectiles. Ultimately, our relentless combined attacks mean that we've made serious and meaningful progress so far in significantly reducing the total number of threatening Iranian projectiles. We see that their ballistic missiles have decreased by 90% since the start. Their number of launches and one-way drones have also decreased by 83% since the start of operations. And this is a testament to the capability of our defensive forces and our air defense and our partners in the region who are still defending very well. Second, we're making serious progress in destroying their navy. In the first 10 days, we destroyed over 50 Iranian vessels with a combination of artillery, bombers, and missiles. Just as Admiral Cooper explicitly stated during his briefing on Thursday, our forces successfully hit and sank one of their primary drone carriers. Furthermore, our offensive operations remain ongoing, and we are still relentlessly hitting their critical operational facilities, as well as active mine-laying vessels. Third, in a highly strategic move, we targeted Iran's military-industrial complexes and advanced weapons production facilities. By directly going after this crucial center of gravity, our ultimate objective is to systematically degrade their infrastructure and completely prevent them from having the capability to carry out these destabilizing drone attacks in the future.
Fareshta Pazes, an international relations expert from Washington, has joined us. Ms. Pazes, the U.S., as we just saw in General Kane's remarks, is claiming that it has reduced the Islamic Republic's missile and drone capabilities by 80 to 90% compared to the beginning of the war, which, well, seems like a stunning number on paper, but in practice on the ground, we are seeing that the Islamic Republic's drones, and in some cases, especially in Israel, their missiles are still causing a lot of damage.
Yes, that's right. And it's not just that the Islamic Republic can't launch these now, although it will be effective later in the war. But probably for the viewers and for you, the biggest question is what the outcome of this war is going to be. What Mr. Trump has repeated a lot in the days leading up to the war, during the start of the war, and consistently over the past week or two, is quite clear. The thing is, we certainly don't want to be forced to go back and repeat this major operation 5 or 10 years from now. This means the practical translation of this is that if those who are in power in Iran after this war ends still want to actively implement the death to America and death to Israel slogans, the conflict continues. Even if all of that strategic capability is completely disrupted right now, it is merely a temporary delay. At some point in the future, they will inevitably rebuild their infrastructure, and they can create these very same problems, perhaps even spawning worse crises than before. Furthermore, internally, we know that we might then face a profoundly serious crackdown against dissenting voices. This is critical to understand, because regardless of what politically charged slogans are chanted behind the podiums in America, the underlying reality remains America's true strategic goal, which its international rivals and close close allies are carefully sitting and watching right now simply won't be achieved unless a fundamental political rebalancing happens directly inside Iran. This holds true regardless of what diplomatic term it is ultimately called. But if those who come to power still want to pursue the same goals, even if all their capabilities are destroyed now, at some point they can rebuild themselves. And this we practically count as a defeat for Mr. Trump's administration, not just Mr. Trump's administration, but for America.
Well, I know and you know that the Islamic Republic, let alone in its current form, even in a very reformist form, won't become what Mr. Trump wants. So it seems like the stance is one of regime change. And increasingly, it also seems that perhaps at this juncture, if such an action is really to take place, there might be a need for ground forces inside Iranian territory, a discussion that Mr. Trump and his administration initially rejected, but now it seems they're bringing it up more seriously.
Look, you and I might know this, but I'm not sure if Mr. Trump understands the extent of this regime's ideological nature, or if he doesn't consider the possibility that if they remove a few layers of these people, the remaining layer will come and cooperate. I'm saying this because we've heard from him many times over the past few weeks that he likes the Venezuela model. He thinks that formula worked. Other formulas like Iraq didn't work, and he wants to implement that one. Whether it actually succeeds or not is another discussion, and the issue of introducing ground forces. It's true, there are whispers of it. We still don't know to what extent, because what would be needed for a ground operation in Iran would be significantly larger than the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, than bring these missile launches to zero, almost controlled drone launches. And at the same time, how many of the remaining political leaders and military command elements they can eliminate, and what kind of connections they can establish with the remnants of this system, a system where, anyway, its first, second, and third layers might all be ideological, but one can expect that maybe a part of it might be willing to. Accept this approach risks their survival. Of course, this is a gamble that I think, as we have talked about many times, the Islamic Republic has deliberately gambled on war. They know well that human lives in the West, in America, in Israel, and in the Middle East outside of Iran have tremendous value. Likewise, their property and their overall economy have immense value. They are strategically trying to raise the political cost for leaders by creating massive expenses, ultimately hoping to force America to back down from this path. This occurs regardless of how much others want to encourage Mr. Trump to continue this path. In these circumstances, all of these are variables that directly influence each other. It is not like we are operating in a static situation where we can definitively say that we are certainly facing an imminent regime change. We are still very much in the early, unpredictable days of this conflict. It is only day 10, and I think we will have to carefully watch how things progress on the battlefield this week. The key question is just how successful this current air campaign will ultimately be, and how quickly military planners can achieve those crucial initial objectives before we transition into the next operational phase. I think right now we are still hearing persistent whispers about a potential ground invasion. While that is true, I firmly believe it is far too early to assume U.S. ground forces will be deployed on that massive scale.
This war, it actually started with targeting the highest-ranking political figure of the Islamic Republic, Ali Khamenei, and many other leaders and commanders of the Revolutionary Guard. Well, now, even though the war has really intensified, we see that those attacks, whether for operational or political reasons, are no longer against other political targets. Many prominent figures of the Islamic Republic are still alive, from the president, doctors, to Ali Larijani, Mohseni Ejei, and other figures. Do you think it's possible that by targeting, as you said, the second layer of political figures, from Larijani and others to Khamenei Jr., the remnants of the Islamic Republic, whatever is left of, it might actually surrender at the last minute?
We do not know for sure, but one can certainly expect that if Mr. Trump is going to continue the war in the next critical phase, without eliminating this opposing line, he cannot implement the exact scenario he wants. That specific formula he keeps insisting on, the so-called Venezuela formula, requires a clear path forward. It simply doesn't seem like, until he firmly eliminates these particular individuals, the others will realistically have a way to cooperate with him on this. So to fully test the aggressive formula he confidently claimed yesterday worked really well, he at least needs to eliminate these people. Now, there are operational issues that need to be seen. It seems Israel will likely be the force to eliminate them. The timing is the issue. And then, well, there's also the issue of the people. Whether that initial plan where they come to help the people and tell them to come out into the streets, and what do people want in the streets if they come out? They change everything, the situation. But I also believe that if there's going to be a change in the political balance with these individuals still around, we're seeing that this possibility isn't likely.
Thank you, international relations expert Fardad Farahzad. The German chancellor says Berlin is concerned that the US and Israel might not have a joint plan for a quick and convincing end to the war in Iran. Friedrich Merz stated that Germany agrees with many of the war objectives of these two countries, but new questions arise daily about their plan to end the war. Meanwhile, Israel's foreign minister, in a joint press conference with Germany's foreign minister in Jerusalem, said that Israel is not seeking an endless war, but operations will continue as long as this country and its allies wish. Gideon Saar urges Western countries to cut ties with the Islamic Republic.
Dear Minister,
Honorable Mr. German Foreign Minister, Germany courageously led the crucial process of listing the Revolutionary Guard as a designated terrorist organization within the European Union. We sincerely thank you for that. I firmly believe the time has now come for all Western countries to completely sever diplomatic ties with this dangerous terrorist regime. This is a brutal regime that the German government itself rightfully says no longer possesses legitimacy.
Mir Javedanfar, an analyst of Israeli affairs from Tel Aviv, has joined us. Mr. Javedanfar, it was clear in the Israeli foreign minister's remarks that he might be sending a signal to the US that we are not seeking endless wars either, something the Americans are very wary of. How much, in your opinion, especially given the resistance we've seen from the Islamic Republic so far, could this time window become an Achilles heel?
The overall geopolitical strategy remains highly ambiguous and largely unclear to external observers. One of the primary reasons why American officials, and particularly Mr. Trump, frequently speak in such a deliberately contradictory manner is that they actively want to disorient and confuse the key figures in the Islamic Republic. By sending mixed signals, they aim to disrupt those who are deeply involved in decision-making and policy-making within Iran's complex security institutions and the Velayat Efaki government. The goal is to ensure that these leaders are never sure how they should formulate their plans, for exactly how long they should prepare, or how they should effectively react. Of course, no one actually desires an eternal war. Even the Velayat Efaki government doesn't want an eternal, unending war to exist. But in Israel and the US, right now, what it seems is that they are very satisfied with the war's outcomes. Attacks against missile manufacturing and launch facilities on one hand, and Israel's focused attacks on the besieged bases and police stations of the Velayat Efaki regime, which were used for the mass killing of the Iranian people in the month of Day and for suppressing and arresting protesters. Israel is blowing them up one by one in Iran's main cities. And from this perspective, Israel is essentially dealing with a looming future danger. It is directly confronting a severe danger to Israel's own security, which primarily consists of the Iranian regime's advanced missiles, and it is actively working on eliminating them. On the other hand, Israel is also eliminating the profound everyday danger that exists for the Iranian people themselves. By targeting the oppressive forces operating out of the besieged bases and local police stations, it is neutralizing these internal threats for the broader security of the Iranian public. Therefore, it is a calculated dual-pronged strategy that both sides are currently continuing to engage with. Sometime in the future, they will ultimately decide when this war should end, but right now, they are steadily making tactical progress.
Mr. Jadanfar, you're saying they have a specific strategy. At least on the military front, it seems to be as you say, because they've targeted very specific objectives, like, as Americans say, up to 5,000 of them so far. But even if we take the German Chancellor's words as a benchmark, it's clear that even some partners are concerned about a political approach and plan, like what's ultimately going to happen from a political perspective.
This international concern is completely logical and entirely justified given the geopolitical climate. Currently, European countries are especially worried because their fragile economies could be severely harmed as a direct result of the ongoing war and the disruptive maritime events that have unfolded in the strategic Strait of Hormuz. Furthermore, their apprehension also exists regarding the critical political transition, specifically the fact that Mojtaba Khamenei has now stepped forward to become his father's successor as leader. Some analysts in the West view this transition of authority as a clear sign of the Vilayat, but this is more a sign that, like Iran's leaders, Khamenei, he wanted to continue with the same previous process, with the same people who were previously in the leader's office. And another reason, too, is learning a lesson from Ahmad Khomeini. We saw that Ahmad Khomeini wasn't chosen, then he was very much marginalized. Then he had severe disagreements with both Khamenei and Rafsanjani, and then he died in an accident. And later, operating within the regime itself, officials began circulating rumors. They openly said that some people firmly believed he was killed. The truth remains completely murky, and it is universally acknowledged that he didn't die of natural causes. Given these circumstances, it is very natural that Supreme Leader Sayyid Ali Khamenei desperately doesn't want a similarly grim fate to befall his son Mojtaba and the rest of the Khamenei family. However, this cautious self-preservation isn't a sign of actual political resistance. Overall, though, Europeans are growing increasingly worried about exactly how long this destructive regional war will continue. But as far as we can currently see right now, the ruling regime in Iran is fundamentally failing. Firstly, its much-touted armed forces are, quite frankly, being decisively defeated. Secondly, it's the biggest sign of victory for Israel and America. None of the Iranian people, despite the fact that the Iranian people are patriotic, none of them ever came to the side of the Islamic Republic of Iran, even though Israel and America are attacking Iran's territory, because all of them see that the one who started this war.
Mr. Jadanfar, you're saying this, but the traditional support base of the Islamic Republic doesn't seem to have fallen apart, at least not at this moment. Well, in its political sector, we finally see that cohesion at those higher levels still exists at this moment. But the military sector, even though its numbers have decreased, is still launching missiles and drones. And at night, we see these same traditional supporters of the Islamic Republic, despite these Israeli and American attacks, coming out into the streets and supporting the government.
I strongly disagree with your criteria, too. The thing is, this really isn't a strategic masterpiece. You know, just because some people are brought into the squares, or because it is a government that we see continue. This supposed masterpiece, this isn't a masterpiece. Rather, one must objectively look at the government's actual efficiency. We need to see how efficient all of its military, armed, and intelligence organs have truly been so far. The reality is that all of them have entirely failed so far, and the government has completely lost its basic justification for existing among the Iranian people. Yes, right now the Islamic Republic of Iran hasn't fallen, and the Vilayat-e-Faqih government hasn't fallen. But we've seen that for all these years, the leadership confidently said, we are a formidable superpower, and our deterrent power against Israel is incredibly strong. They boasted, we have Hamas, Hezbollah, and unified resistance forces. The Israelis will never dare attack us, and we can easily defeat them. Tragically, all of this turned out to be entirely wrong, and we are now seeing the complete collapse of our government's foundational structure. It represents the absolute failure of the country's management model. So right now, it's really not a masterpiece that some people are brought into the squares. We see that many of the very important organs and pillars for the survival of this government have truly failed, and we need to see what will happen in the future.
Thank you, Mayor Jadanfar, Israeli analyst, Tel Aviv. While in recent days, news of the Kurdish coalition's Peshmerga forces' readiness to enter Kurdistan had been reported in the media, U.S. President Donald Trump said he doesn't agree with this, because he doesn't want the situation to get more complicated. The U.S. president had said in this regard that Washington has a good relationship with the Kurds, but the United States doesn't want the war to become more complicated than it already is. To discuss the latest developments on this matter, we are joined by Khalid Azizi, spokesperson for the Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran, from our studio in Washington. Thank you very much, Mr. Azizi, for accepting our invitation. First and foremost, have you spoken with American officials in recent days?
We have been, and still are, in contact with American officials, both in the past and currently. Naturally, we have had many discussions regarding the war between America and Israel against the Islamic Republic.
What Mr. Trump said contradicts initial reports. In your opinion, especially considering the contacts you mentioned you've had, was there an initial approach for Kurdish forces to enter, which the Americans later backed away from or retreated from?
I don't think that we, the Americans, have retreated from this issue, and even in the past when we had discussions, these discussions never reached the stage where we would practically enter Iranian Kurdistan and open a war front against the Islamic Republic in Iranian Kurdistan. The reason for that was we were waiting for the continuation of this war. We were examining the war's developments to see where the war would lead in its continuation. And I think Mr. Trump still has this policy, at least to support us, because our movement in Iranian Kurdistan against the Islamic Republic has a very long history. And we are fighting for the establishment of democracy in Iran and for the rights of Kurds as a nation. Therefore, this issue is still ongoing, and discussions and negotiations regarding this matter between us and the Americans are still in place.
Do you yourselves have an appetite for a ground entry into Iran if the government becomes weaker than it currently is?
Again, we must pay attention to the developments of this war, where its developments will lead. So far, this war has been an aerial and ground war against the Islamic Republic. And certainly, and separately, the Islamic Republic has become very weak. Its leadership, security, and military centers have been targeted. But newer developments are necessary. After all, this war cannot be continued in the same manner. And by striking the Islamic Republic through aerial and naval means, this regime won't be eliminated. Our main question is, will the continuation of this war result in the elimination of the Islamic Republic regime? Or, as they say, will they enter a process of regime change? These are topics that are open for discussion, conversation, and review between us and the Americans.
Well, you yourself are pointing out right now that, in your belief, it can't be done just with airstrikes, and one of the options that has been brought up is precisely the entry of Kurdish forces. Do you see this capacity within your own party, within other Kurdish parties, to want to go beyond the Kurdish inhabited areas themselves, to, say, Tehran? Is there such a capacity, such an interest, such a taste for that?
Look, interest and taste are one thing, but the reality on the ground is something else entirely. As far as Iranian Kurdistan is concerned, after the Islamic Revolution of Iran, the Islamic Republic was never really able to seriously control Iranian Kurdistan. Their military and security presence was very intense. They had turned Iranian Kurdistan into a security zone. But we are pursuing this issue of how the struggles of the people of Iranian Kurdistan, both in political and military dimensions, can be in coordination and cooperation with the rest of Iran. The truth is, all the issues go back to Tehran. We still don't know what Mr. Trump's policy is regarding Tehran and the future of the Islamic Republic, and basically if their plan is regime change, or if changes and developments should happen within the regime itself, or if they are interested in entering into dialogue and negotiation with a part of the regime. I mean, we are in a very complex equation. For us as Kurds, it's very difficult right now to be able to make a very serious decision in this regard, based on sending Peshmerga armed forces to Iranian Kurdistan.
What needs to happen for you to send the forces?
What needs to happen is that we must enter another phase. We are still in the phase of suppressing and striking atomic centers, missile centers, political centers, and the command centers of the leaders of the Islamic Republic. As I mentioned, this isn't enough for the Islamic Republic to be eliminated. Now, the next phase is what America and Israel's own assessment and analysis of this war against the Islamic Republic has been so far. And then in the next phase, which factors will they ultimately prioritize in this whole process? There must be some development inside Iran. A situation must arise where people take to the streets. A situation must arise where the disintegration of the Islamic Republic system begins from Tehran, whether militarily, politically, or in terms of the internal struggles they have among themselves. I mean, this issue is mostly specific to Tehran, specific to big cities. As far as Kurdistan is concerned, we have the ability, in any situation, in a state of power vacuum in Iran, to be able to administer Iranian Kurdistan and to the best of our ability to have also helped the process of reconciliation, security, and stability in Iran.
You know, these very statements you're making worry many Iranians, that in a power vacuum situation in Iran, you could administer Kurdistan. Many might interpret this as autonomy and separatism, especially after President Trump's remarks, who had said that perhaps after the end of this war, the map of Iran might not remain the same. Is this one of the options, one of your approaches, that if conditions are met, you would separate the control of Kurdistan?
Look, even after the Islamic Revolution of Iran, we had control of Iranian Kurdistan for a while, but we were in contact with all political organizations and movements inside Iran. If such a situation arises again, our plan is to use Iranian Kurdistan, which the Kurdistan Peshmerga and our party will be very instrumental in administering, to establish democracy in Iran. Kurdistan should become a political, military, and security base for advancing political goals and objectives throughout Iran. No, we are by no means looking to make Kurdistan a separate entity from the rest of Iran. But we do have capabilities, abilities, and capacities in terms of organization and militarily, and we hope that in the future we can use these in cooperation and coordination with the rest of the Iranian people, organizations, and political movements for the establishment of democracy in Iran.
You've referred to Iranian Kurdistan several times. Just to summarize, so under any circumstances, ultimately you consider Iranian Kurdistan an inseparable part of Iran.
And so far, our policy has been this, and in how this war unfolds, and the consequences of this war, and how this war exits during the transition period, I hope we reach this era. And during Iran's reconstruction period, the Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran will always try to play a significant role in how Iran is rebuilt. And this party, and the Kurdish people in Iranian Kurdistan, should be part of the political, security, military, and legal administration of future Iran, because we believe that dictatorship in Iran will only be eliminated when people in Iran won't be worried about separatism and all that, when we Kurds and other nations and other political diversities within Iran are part of the political, legal, security, and military administration of future Iran.
Thank you, Khaled Azizi, spokesperson for the Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran, from our Washington studio. According to some reports, Pakistan has deployed its navy to escort oil tankers in the Persian Gulf. This is while Trump has threatened that if oil exports are cut off, the Islamic Republic will face death, fire, and fury. According to Islamabad, the country's navy has begun its operations to protect maritime communication routes. In images published by the country's media, Pakistani naval vessels are seen escorting oil tankers. Farzeen Nadimi, a senior research fellow for defense and security affairs at the Washington Institute, is with us from this very city. Mr. Nadimi, up to this moment, the Islamic Republic, especially in this recent war, hasn't attacked Pakistan. Its relations with Islamabad have been relatively good. What signal does it send that Pakistanis are now escorting ships, vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, especially if the Islamic Republic decides to attack oil tankers?
Well, it is certainly an important and notable development. It has probably taken place in close coordination between the United States and Pakistan. I must confess, I hadn't seen this specific report before right now, therefore I really can't comment much on its detailed background. Other reports that had recently come in were also published on your own website, noting that the United States announced that the U.S. Navy safely escorted a commercial oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz, and I frankly don't know the exact circumstances of that situation either. Anyway, whatever happens, the escorting of an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz will be an embarrassment for the IRGC Navy and Mr. Tangsiri, who had announced that we will not allow ships to pass.
especially oil tankers belonging to the United States and other allied countries involved in this ongoing war. This dynamic is complicated, especially if this escort now also involves warships from countries located outside the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf region. The Pakistani Navy naturally has a good cooperative relationship with Iran, maintaining close ties with both the regular Army Navy and the IRGC Navy. And if a conflict were to inadvertently occur because of escorting oil tankers with Pakistan, it would cause an incredibly unwanted diplomatic tension for the Islamic government. I honestly don't think it would have any desire to get deeply involved with Pakistan under these current circumstances. And this is a geopolitical development that, well, we will have to monitor closely to see if it continues or not. Overall, too, the Strait of Hormuz wasn't completely closed. I mean, it wasn't like every commercial ship passing through the Strait of Hormuz faced daily rocket fire, incoming missiles, or naval mining. That hasn't happened. International ship traffic has continued, albeit with noticeably fewer numbers and with AIS tracking systems temporarily turned off. But mostly this has been the specific wish of cautious ship owners, due to the sharp increase in war risk insurance premiums, to mostly refrain from passage. The IRGC Navy has tried to use this propaganda, and at the same time, it's at a time when the Army Navy, and to some extent the IRGC Navy, are under severe aerial attacks on their fortifications, facilities, and command centers. Of course, the Army, more than the IRGC, has been subjected to severe attacks. We've seen many of their ships hit at sea or in port.
Mr. Nadimi, please stay with us. I want us to watch some of the published images from today and tonight's Israeli and American attacks on Tehran, Tabriz, and Bandar Lenge together.
We were headed to Ali Strait.
Man, it really just came right out of nowhere, didn't it? I honestly thought someone was pushing it at first, but no. Just look at it now. It's actually going completely on its own.
We are still with Farzin Nadimi, a senior defense and security researcher at the Washington Institute. Mr. Nadimi, we've seen some of these images, and it seems that maritime targets have increasingly become more prominent in attacks, especially those by the United States against Islamic Republic positions. When you look at this overall picture, the targets being hit at sea and the targets being struck in Tehran and other cities, what kind of outlook does it show you regarding the future of this war?
What it shows is the continuation of US and Israeli airstrikes, and there are no signs of these attacks coming to an end. It's true that there's talk of 5,000 targets being attacked, but in my opinion, there are still a lot of targets on this very list and categorization that have been attacked so far, and they can continue these attacks with the same intensity for at least another 1 to 2 weeks. The issue of the seas. Thus far, the IRGC Navy, especially within the strategic Persian Gulf region, has almost not been attacked much. We haven't heard of many attacks on their swift gunboats, or the coastal facilities related to these gunboats and small missile launchers yet, although some bases are currently being attacked. In my opinion, we could witness quite significant attacks on the IRGC Navy in the coming days. As for Tehran and other places, in my opinion, there are still many critical targets in sensitive industrial areas around Tehran that are still being attacked or are going to be attacked much more heavily. Right now, heavily armed B-1 bombers are rapidly approaching Iran to begin their extensive airstrikes. In total, 14 B-1 bombers and 2 B-52 bombers have been deployed in Britain, meaning we will witness a greater number of these airstrikes in the coming days. Each B-1 can carry up to 114 small SDB bombs, low-diameter bombs. These bombs are very useful in areas where they are going to be used and attacked in large numbers, or they can fly for an unlimited duration and quickly release their bombs whenever a missile launcher or a drone launcher is ready to fire. And it also has a range of about 70 kilometers, and we can expect to see the permanent presence of these bombers in Iran's skies in the coming days.
Thank you, Farzi Nadimi, senior researcher at the Washington Institute. And thank you for being a viewer of tonight's 24 program. You can watch this program again a little later on Iran International's YouTube channel, and naturally, this network's special coverage of the war between Israel and the United States with the Islamic Republic will continue in the hours ahead.